So just looking back at the journey, I guess on the basketball side, but I'll take anything across other sports that Wyatt's gone through too. What do you think has worked well for him and for you? I guess you've probably been involved with coaching him to some extent across the different sports, I imagine. So what's worked well for you guys that has kind of contributed to his progression over time?
I'm reflecting on the different sports he's played
Sure.
and thinking about what's worked well. I think for Wyatt and for any kid, and what I shared earlier in this call, like I think back to when I was 9 and my coaches told me I had hands like glue.
Mm,
I'll never forget that. Like that made me unique and special. And so I think for Wyatt, and I've told him this, I think for any kid, it's coming from that place of strength. I think who's the old Pats coach who coached the Seahawks, now coaching in college now, high energy guy. Um, anyway, it'll come to me later. He's he has a reputation for not nitpicking his players for the mistakes they make, but
mm,
focusing on like finding out where they're doing well and encouraging them to really do more of that because that's going to help compensate for maybe the areas that they're weak. And I think I've noticed that with it's that positive coaching approach. I've noticed that with Wyatt and other kids. I mean, it's building them up, and then from that you can help you know make them more well-rounded. But so for Wyatt, and this is just dad to son, I have two boys. He's not as fast and as quick and as athletic as his older brother yet. But he has better hand-eye coordination. He has more touch, more finesse.
mm,
And you probably see that, from him in the program. But guess what, Wyatt? You can, so I make sure I always remind him of that. Um, but you can develop the other stuff. It's not like, great athletes don't just come out of the womb as great athletes. Yes, there's nature and nurture, but I know firsthand how an athlete can develop and go from being, average to good to great. So I think I want him to stay positive and recognize that he does have, some unique gifts. And if he continues to work on those and then the other areas, he could rise above those that are ahead of him now. So
sure.
um, that type of approach with Wyatt, I think, works well because um, it it built it. Who doesn't want to hear good things about themselves and then
Right.
and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Um, I think playing different sports also has been beneficial for him.
Mm,
Just because it makes you more well-rounded. You're not going to be great at all of them, and I think you learn how to play different roles on different teams. You can be the man on basketball. You're just one of the guys on your baseball team or your football team,
yeah.
or a small shifty athlete can be really good in basketball, but maybe at a young age scared of contact in football. So I think for Wyatt to get a little bit more physical, playing football has helped him in other sports.
Mm,
um, but I think just playing pickup with his dad and his brother and realizing that he can actually score against us. And, the other day actually beat me 1 out of 3 in the front yard.
nice.
He's getting there. So
It was a big moment. Beat the
it was,
dad.
he
Yeah.
was pissed. He was pissed. I think you have him believing that he was ready to beat dad.
Yeah.
And he had me ready to not let that happen yet.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's always a calibration, right? It's like somewhere between being overwhelmed and being overconfident. There's a reality that arrives over time.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. I would say the other thing I've noticed about him is that he's just very stoic. I'll try to crack a joke or something between him and Luke because I know they're buddies, and he's always just like stone faced, like I'm here to work or whatever. So then I'm like, all right, well, I gotta get back to serious. Like, why it's expecting big things from me here? He's ready to go. Um,
Well, yeah. Listen, I do want to share with you as well. I've been impressed with. I mean, you got seventh graders. I coach seventh and eighth grade football.
yeah,
Um, you gotta run a tight ship. You got to keep things going. You got to keep things focused, and you can't. if you joke too much, you begin to lose that authority and that, and you can kind of things can go off the rails. So I've been impressed with how you balance running running a really well organized session with some of the goofiness that seventh graders can bring your way. Um, and specifically your patience to just kind of ignore some of the stuff that's going on. When kids get the giggles or whatever. I think why it maybe gets that seriousness for me. I'm on the court. I want to work. I want to get better.
Yeah.
And now I would get agitated with kids that were goofing off too much because
Sure.
we're here to get some work done. But I think
Yeah.
I think, which is great. He'll need to learn to also, how can you know, can you have more fun while you're playing and not take it so serious and find more enjoyment where you actually could banter or laugh at a joke or think of
Yeah.
a joke yourself. So
Right.
keep him coming at him. He's
Yeah.
still developing.
That's good. All right, the next question I like to ask is what has not worked for you and Wyatt over time? Like, what have you seen where you've run into a wall either, between you two guys or, with him in a different sport or different environment as you've gone through different seasons?
Yeah, well, being a dad and a coach is often a tough position to be in. It can just be a lot. So that hasn't always worked well. Although he's coming back for more next football season. So um, I think we've figured out as I did with my older boy, kind of how to how dad toggles from being dad to coach. And when I get out of the car at practice and I put on my hat or my whistle, I'm now coach
Yeah.
and I'm going to be different. I'm not going to have a one-on-one conversation with you. You're a player, like you're like a father-son conversation. So that's been a
Yeah.
challenge. Um, for Wyatt, you and I talked about this, when we did have our first one-on-one. He's still developing emotionally as well, and uh, being able developing resilience, that not turning one bad play into a second bad play because his attitude um, or not letting his frustration with things that are maybe out of his control affect him. That's going to be an area that so I haven't. That's been an area where my wife and I have been like, huh, how can we help him here? And you know, he we've learned to, like, let's give him some time to breathe. And this could be athletics, or this could be at home, this could be related to school or other stuff.
Yeah.
He's going to need a little bit of time to breathe, and then we're going to then we can have maybe a more productive conversation with him. To your point earlier, BJ, it's probably asking him more questions than just talking at him
Sure.
has been successful. um, and just yeah, like the other day when I beat him 2 out of 3 in the driveway and he's upset, I'm like, hey, you're playing great. You beat me in a game. I was giving you my all. You've never done that before, so congratulations. Like, don't overlook that.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I beat you in the third game because you started to get a bit of a bad attitude. I
Mm.
could tell the way you were slapping the ball and you didn't hustle after a couple of rebounds that I thought you could have gotten. Like, so you're even closer than you think.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's the mental side
Yeah.
for, uh, I mean, for him and for everyone. That's a whole. And actually, I had a question for you.
Hmm.
That mental side of the
Yeah.
game,
Mhm.
it could be resilience, bouncing back from bad plays, or thinking about how do you thinking about confidence and positive self-talk, all these things that can go into really elevating your game or bringing your game into the tank. What's been your experience with that side of it, and how do you bring that into the program?
Yeah, I really like the way you stated it a minute ago is resilience to frustration with things that are outside of his control. Because that's really the crux of the issue, I think, is like what is in my control, what is outside of my control, and am I, getting all upset about something that's just outside of my control? Like I have two terrible teammates on this rec team, and every time I throw it to them, they drop it out of bounds or they shoot an air ball, and it's like I'm ready to pull my hair out and go home. And
Exactly.
actually, that is not in my control. And so, like, what I try to constantly bring players back to actually with our layup maker course, we have I did a whole bunch of thinking about just this concept because I think finishing at the rim, especially, is an area where players come to that frustration point where a lot of it is not in their control, right? So I always say, the coach is going to control your playing time and they're going to control the style of offense and really where you're going to get the ball in the offense and what type of opportunities you're going to have, and the referee's going to control the outcome of a lot of those plays around the basket because you are going to get hit, and they might not call it, and you might not make it, and you might get knocked down, and like all this stuff that's outside of your control. So like, what can we reel it into? Is like, okay, what are my best two finishing options when I attack the paint, and like, can I control and make those? Whether I get hit or not. And so I was like, I don't care if the referee called the foul because that's not in my control. I am going to make this even if I get clobbered, and now it's back in my control. And so just finding kind of those little pockets in the game is like, it's not really explicit, I guess is how I would phrase it to you. Is like I'm not going to explicitly sit Wyatt down and say, we need to work on your mental game and like this and this and
Yep.
this. It's just like as we're going through our 24 hours together on the court over 12 weeks, it's just like this is a pocket you can control. Don't worry about anything else over here. It's like this is what matters. And then it's just like, that's really another aspect of where confidence comes from, I think. It's just like I know that I can control this aspect of this situation and I know what to do and I know I'm good at it and I've done it before. And so like I don't care. Like whatever else those two teammates, like I'm gonna keep making the right read is what I would say to a player if I was coaching that team. Like keep making the right read, hit them in the side of the head with the ball because that's the right play for you. And it's up to them to figure that out over time, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, really just reeling that in and scaling down the size of the bubble that they think they should have to worry about. So like this is in your control, and if you
Yeah.
do a good job with that, then everything else kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's it's not an explicit focus. It's woven into it is it's you don't separate the mental and the physical part of the game.
Right.
You've kind of interwoven them,
Yes.
um, which is, and I see that. I see that and how you work with the kids and what you just shared. I love that. And actually, reminded me of something Wyatt said a couple weeks ago, coming out of a session. I don't know. I don't know what you were teaching him that day, but I'd asked and he shared. He's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because my local, the local coach isn't gonna. That's not how we run our offense.
Mm.
And I'm like, all right, well, listen, you're developing skills right now. You have time, and you got this perfect opportunity to develop your all of your skills. Um, and I think you can only control you. You're coming into next season a different player than you were this season, and I
Right.
think that's going to open opportunities, regardless of the offense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you probably over relied on making passes because you didn't have the confidence in your dribble.
Yeah.
Well, now if you have more confidence in your dribble, you're going to create opportunities that maybe you didn't even think of before. So
Sure.
the offense you play in is a factor, but
Mhm.
I think coaches are also going to recognize your ability and the ability of those around you. And I think all you focus on developing your skills, those opportunities are going to grow. So
Yeah.
that's what you can focus on. That's what you can control.
Right.
So it was an interesting you know conversation coming out of one of your sessions. So I guess I'm
Yeah.
trying to reinforce what you're doing with them.
Right.
But I tell you, listen,
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head how much your program even cost. It was probably more than we've spent on anything basketball related to date.
Mm.
Um, and I'll tell you, it's been the best investment we've made to date. So it is what we hoped it would be, and then some. BJ, your coaching style and the environment that you've created is exactly what Wyatt needed, not just as a basketball player, but as a seventh grade kid. So couldn't be happier.
Awesome. Well, just touching back on what you said, I would describe it as like most team offenses are a scaffold, and what we're really teaching players is how to fill in the painting of that whole scaffold structure. As coaches are going to say, you cut here and screen there, and we pass there, but it's like when Wyatt comes off the screen and gets the ball in his hands, like then it's like he could do any number of things based on what his skill is. And I like the way you were thinking about it there is like you're going to see and have more opportunities than you never thought of before just because you're thinking differently and your skill is at a different level.
Yep. Yep.
I think that's great.
100%.
All right, I'm going to run through kind of some quick hitters. This is actually a conversation I'm going to have with all the players in the program. It's like our midway check-in with parents to just kind of get some feedback from you more than what you've shared already, and get a gauge of where we're at and what we could do better. So, first off, what has changed about Wyatt the most in the past 6 weeks?
Uh, his confidence and his personality. He's coming out. I'm seeing more. I should say I'm seeing more personality from him. And
Hmm.
again, you could ask my wife. She has a different relationship with our boys than I do. Um, I could probably every couple could say that.
Hmm.
I'm noticing more. I'm having better conversations with him, and I'm noticing more personality. And I guess I would just say I'm recognizing more personality where, if I got an eye roll before, I may have taken it as, oh boy, you better not look at me like that way again. So I'm taking it as a sign of disrespect where now I realize, oh no, that's just Wyatt being Wyatt in a way.
Yeah.
Because we're communicating more. This has given us something to talk about.
Hmm.
Um, Something for me to ask about. He's developing confidence, and I think we're seeing it, spill over into other areas. So I would say that's been the biggest difference we've noticed so far.
That's great. What skill do you think you've seen improve the most?
Well, he hit me with a couple moves we played the other day. Just got me to blow by him or got me in the air
Hmm.
when he and then pivoted and creating more separation for himself to make shots
Okay.
is one. And just I saw him last night, catch a pass, give a move, go to his left hand, take it to the basket for a layup.
Hmm.
That was he would never make that move uh, before before your program. So especially to the left side. So I think just the confidence to take the dribble and do it to his left was like, wow, look at that.
That's great.
He finished with a layup, and he's more of a mid range jump shooter guy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What do you think is his biggest danger right now? Like going into tryouts for eighth grade, what do you think's the biggest problem that he's got in front of him?
Um, Being like a goldfish, having a short memory, letting things just kind of roll off. If he misses a shot or two, like just make the next play. Just
Okay.
make the next good play. Don't don't turn one bad play into another bad play because you can't let go of it. I think that's still an area he needs to grow and develop.
Okay. That's really good. What do you think is his biggest opportunity? Like again, going into eighth grade season, like what do you think is the best case scenario ahead of him?
So this past season was his first season playing point guard. There was another boy in the team the prior year and the prior couple of years who was by far probably the best athlete on the team. Good dribbler, fast, good shooter, just hustled. And as a result, like it was almost like everyone just kind of get out of the way. It,
Hmm.
it did it definitely slowed the development of others on the team.
Yeah.
So when that boy went to a different school, um, Wyatt all of a sudden had the opportunity to play point guard, and he was the best person for the role. He was not, I mean, but had a lot of room to grow and develop, and he did. I think he did a really good job for his first year running point. Um, but there's certainly areas of improvement. And that's where I think your program, when he comes back to basketball, he's going to have a whole new, he's going to have a bunch more tools in his toolbox or tricks in his repertoire that he didn't have before. Um,
Yeah,
so I think I'm looking forward to him, whether he's point guard or not, but I think he'll be much more comfortable, keeping the dribble, going to the basket. And I think he's going to notice that where he sees limitations now, like he can control eliminating those because he has other options.
yeah,
Whereas this past season, he really had, limited options.
sure. Oh, that's great. That's exciting. Come into the
Yeah.
next season and have a whole new toolkit to use. What is his biggest strength?
I think it's this competitive nature, his
Hmm.
desire to just win.
I've seen that come out. Yeah, it was telling, and in the I wasn't there on the day of the 3x3 tournament, but his team won, and I was like looking at the roster, I was like, that was like Wyatt's team for that tournament, and I could see
Yeah.
the competitiveness comes out of it. That's great. All right, so overall, like what you've seen so far, what's been the single best part of the program?
Uh, you helping the kids learn how to learn, making them think, recognizing that they have options and opening their eyes to some options that they didn't even realize. So it's elevating their basketball IQ, um, but in a way that it is in a way that's very practical and usable for them in the flow of a game or a session. That's one, and then off the court has absolutely been the second area where just the confidence is building, and that's again that's spilling over into other areas.
Cool. That's great.
You're like the tutor that we needed to find Wyatt a couple of years ago that we haven't been able to find him. You
Hmm.
just happen to be in the form of a basketball coach.
Yeah, well, that's high praise. Thank you. How much, if any, have you watched of the video curriculum? You've been involved in that at all? It varies from parent to parent, but I always like to ask. Zero.
Zero.
All right.
I'm curious. Do you know how much, if any, Wyatt has watched of the video curriculum?
I haven't looked at Wyatt specifically in the last couple weeks. I usually do a check-in every 2 or 3 weeks, and we can see like their progress bar of what they've checked off.
Okay.
But
He
it varies. We usually get a good on ramp the first couple weeks, and it'll dip, around now, middle of the program, and I try to reel them back in. It's, the main goal for me is to save how much time I need to talk on the court so that they're have a better understanding and we just get more action done. So yeah, what else were you
well,
gonna say
I appreciate you checking in with him on that. Sounds like you're going to. He's informed me that there's one video to watch a week.
there?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's correct.
I would believe he's on top of that. But
Good. Yeah, I usually ask the group, it'll be somewhere around 0 to 50% that have watched it on a given week. And so trying to get them in that routine really. And one thing that I've found can help from the parent side is if you encourage him to watch it on your drive to the gym, if you happen to be the carpool dad of the night. But that's a great way to just like make it fresh and make sure they have watched at least a gist of it. They cover some of them go long because I'm long-winded on some topics, but if they can watch, the 15 or 20 minutes during the drive time, it's like, okay, I know what I'm in for, and we just get more done that way.
awesome. Well, I'll absolutely make sure we do that. It'll be a chance for uh, me to watch them as well, and
Yeah,
maybe just so I can put those on in the car.
yeah, that'd be great. All right, I'm gonna ask you for a rating on a couple of things. How would you rate the on-court coaching?
Um, I can't give you a 10 out of 10 just because I just feel like that's too high. It's too much praise. So I'm going to give you a 9. Um, is this a scale of 10?
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
give you a scale reference, but
I'll
yeah,
give you I'll give you a 9. Just
all right,
there's always BJ. You strike me as the kind of guy that recognizes there's always room to grow and improve.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'll give you a 9. But I don't have a I don't have a I'll give some thought to what could make that a 10.
yeah,
Um, I'll come back to you.
All right, that sounds good. How about on the administrative side, with our scheduling, communication, everything else that you've had contact with us about, how would you rate that experience?
Um, I would rate my role in that experience poor. I think you all send out, there's confirmations with the sessions. I see emails coming out, and then there's the app as well, which I was ignorant to signing up on the last 3-on-3. You're like, we'll just go on. What's the name of the app again?
Yeah, upper hand.
Upper Hand, and I was like, a what? But I
Yeah,
had downloaded it. I already had it. I just didn't remember it. So I think. Um, Yeah, and I was a little out of the loop with the 3-on-3. But again, I think I have my work inbox. I got my personal inbox. I tend to my work one as a priority. Things often slip by me in the personal inbox.
sure.
Um, One area I really would love to see Wyatt be the one on top of it all. And it might be
Yeah,
asking too much for a seventh grader, but I'd I'd rather see him push than us pull.
yeah.
So for the 3-on-3, for example,
Mm,
um, I would have loved it if he was like, "Hey, Dad, the 3-on-3 is coming up. Do you have the app, or does he have the app? Can
yeah.
or, here's the information. I want to do this."
Mm,
Um, Again, I think it's giving them the opportunity to kind of drive this. That's
yeah,
just giving them a chance to kind of lead their own development.
sure.
Um, that would be nirvana in my eyes, because then, like, this is his program, we're investing in him, but we told him, like, you're going to get out of this what you put into it.
Mm,
We're not going to want to have to like give you a pep talk to get you to practice, or to remind you to do the homework that BJ is assigning you. So
sure.
um, I think you putting them in that driver's seat as much as you can for a seventh grader, or maybe giving them the chance, but also knowing that there's a back channel, you know
Yeah,
communication as well. I think that would be better. But
sure.
I didn't answer your question. I think you're doing a good job there. I'll give you an 8 out of 10. Um, I just, again, I let things slide by me too often, and I love to see the kids play a more active role in kind of being on top of what they need to do.
Yeah, no, I kind of like that too. We could probably do more on like telling them courtside, like, hey, we have this thing coming up, like the 3x3. I think I told them, the last night on the court with our normal program before that Sunday, and so it wasn't a lot of notice or a lot of repetition for him to be aware of that coming up and prompt you guys to register. But I do think there's opportunities to do more of that. And we like to call it concierge customer service is really what we're trying to achieve is like you text us and say, hey, we want to do this thing on this date. And we're like, yes, we'll schedule that for you. And if it's a podcast, we'll reschedule at least 5 times to
Yeah.
get there.
Well, a couple of
Um,
those reschedules were on me.
yeah. All right. So next question is, who else do you know that needs help with confidence? Who else do you think would be a fit for the program?
Oh, I was going to say, like, I don't know anyone who doesn't need a bit more confidence. Um, we're fans of the program. So you just asking me that question, now my wheels are spinning in terms of who might be a good fit. Let me
Yeah.
ask you. So you specifically were marketing for this program for seventh graders.
Yeah.
Um, okay, are there other ages that you bring into the program, and when are the next like start dates?
Yeah. So the next program starts June 24th for the same series, but we have a plethora of other programs based on what player needs. So really what we're trying to keep as our niche, like I got to keep my blinders on is, seventh grade or older, like usually seventh to 10th grade is where we find we're the most benefit because, by the time they're a sophomore or maybe they played some varsity minutes, they're like, they know too much and they're not willing to change and look bad in front of their peers. And if they haven't played, a couple of years of basketball up to seventh grade, then they're not really ready to take, the intensity that we want to bring for the value. And so that's really seventh, eighth, ninth grade players that are where we found the best fit and the best leverage impact.
Got it.
And What
I'll
I
give it. I'll give it some. Listen, I'm a huge fan of the program, and I think um, next year, you know what I'll do. I'm going to reach out to my friend who's coaching the team, and he's also on the board,
hmm,
and just and kind of share. And I'll encourage Ben to do the same. Just kind of share the feedback. Um,
yeah,
'Cause I think there's definitely other kids that are probably trying and doing AAU, and maybe that's work for them, but maybe it's not.
yeah.
The way I said it earlier, maybe this is more in line with what they need.
Sure. What I really like to do is give you a copy of my book that you could just hand to somebody, that you think would be interested, would be a good fit. It just kind of explains our whole approach to it and, makes it an easy way that you're not having to share contact info either way. It's just like, hey, we did this program, here's a book to catch you up on what that's about. So remind me
Okay,
if I don't give you one. I think Wyatt probably got one in his bag when he got his welcome kit.
he did. He
So
did.
yeah, if you want another copy when you're in the gym next time, just remind me. I'll
All
get
right.
you one.
All right.
Last thing to chat with you about is kind of what's next for Wyatt. So we've designed what we call the confidence warranty, which is like our maintenance program when he's done with the 12 weeks to kind of continue progression with kind of as minimal a commitment on the court as we see fit to actually maintain and keep progress. So it's $259 a month, and we basically do two workouts and two Dr. Dish shooting sessions every month. And so those could be combined into just 2 days, or they could be spread out. So he does something every week. And then we do a lot of off the court accountability. So I'm texting him 3 days a week, especially if he's in a basketball season. Like, hey, what's going on? What are you working on in practice this week? What did you run into at games? What are you thinking about tomorrow's game? And then we also do game film analysis. So we'll take either workout clips that we're doing in our gym or game film if you can capture it for us. And I'll be feeding that back to him with a voiceover and say, hey, Wyatt, here's where you caught it and we're trying to rip away from the pass and you drove back toward the pass and ran into defense. Like, here's the decision making. So we just offer that for players that have done the 12 weeks with us because we have kind of that rapport and terminology that we can give them a lot of value without having to be physically in the gym with us as much. And so that's available anytime. We offer a discount package if you sign up before the end of the 12 weeks to roll into that for a whole year and really just try to maintain and legitimately trying to put what we've built under warranty so that it doesn't disappear on him and we can keep that moving forward.
Awesome. Well, I think, when does this program wrap up? I know it's 12 weeks long. I think we're at week 8 or
Yeah, I think
9.
June the 5th is our final day on the court.
Okay. Well, we got to figure out his summer schedule
Yeah.
and what he's doing. And last year I think he had baseball going on till mid-July, and football starts up mid-August. So,
Sure.
but this year there's no baseball. So it's
Yeah.
let us have that conversation. And
Sure.
are
Yeah,
there
that's
any
the
other? So you
offer
mentioned
too. Like I said, as a
sorry, go ahead.
graduate of the as a graduate of the Confidence Formula program here when he ends in June, like this is a standing offer for him to do anytime. So if it makes sense to kick that off, maybe in October when football's winding down and he's going to get into his season, like it's just a great way to have like individual support when he's going through his basketball season for sure.
Yeah. Um, could you? Is this on your website?
It is. Yeah, it's actually playpracticebasketball.com/confidence/warranty. We'll get you there.
Okay.
I'll send you a link to it too.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, you guys can review that and talk about it. And like I said, anytime that it makes sense for you, we can kick that off when he's ready.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, this has been a great conversation. I'm gonna hit you with one more question to wrap up. What is your advice to other parents kind of coming along behind you? And what would you tell them that they should do to try to set their athlete up for best success in sports?
Um, there was a former Major League Baseball player who was talking about his experience growing up. Um, you know, this is not there's no path to helping your that's going to guarantee your kid's going to play professionally or collegiately. That shouldn't even be the goal. The goal is to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity that sports will provide them to learn a lot about themselves and to develop and to become a better version of themselves. I can't, I'm a huge fan of kids playing sports. That's why I'm involved in coaching them myself, is because I want to give back to kids that I want to give them what was given to me, and maybe even do it in a different or better way than I had, so that they can, figure out who they are, grow in confidence, and then develop as a teammate and a leader. And I think if we keep our focus on the lessons that sports can teach and helping our kids learn those lessons, um, like, that should be the guarantee. So to stay focused on that, like, I'm not saying I'm rooting for my kids to fail, but I'm certainly, I want to put them in positions where they might struggle and be challenged and fail, so that they can learn how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because I would say if you look at the best athletes in the world in any sport, their superpower isn't their skill at the sport, it's their ability to bounce back from failure repeatedly
Mm.
and their willingness to take risks. So, like, just focus on figuring out what your kids want to put their energy and effort into, and support them in doing that. It's their life, it's not ours. So,
Mm.
um, you know, but this is a great opportunity to help develop them as into great humans. So keep the focus on that, and the rest will work out as it's supposed to.
Awesome. Well said. Well, thanks for
Nice.
coming on and joining us, Bryant. This is a great conversation.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks again for putting together this program. I'm glad the Babcocks recommended it, and yeah, why it's really benefiting from it. So, um, yeah, couldn't be happier.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Later, BJ.